I know my other After Effects tutorial did pretty well, so if this video reaches a big audience, then I might have to act a bit more, civil? Hello everyone, I'm excited, therefore I'm going to spare you from a 5-minute long intro today. Those who are familiar with my channel know what I'm talking about. Let's get going on this ASAP. Today, I'm going to show you how to make this effect. I call it Psychedelic Waves. Is awesome. It can be varied in so many ways. You could make this effect and then you try to make another one and you will never get the same effect again. This effect can be done 100% inside of After Effects with no third-party plugins and no drugs. Now you might be thinking this is too noisy or just don't like how this looks, and you might not even be into psychedelic or abstract visuals at all, and I wouldn't blame you, trust me. But this tutorial will come in handy for outstanding unique transition effects or motion graphics. Personally, I use it for my channel intro, and even if you can't find a purpose for it, it would still be super satisfying to make, and you might just learn a thing or two about After Effects that you didn't know about. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. Let's get started right away. We're gonna make a new composition. And I'm going to make this 1920p by 1080p with the aspect ratio 16:9. And I would recommend a high frame rate for this, like 60 frames per second. But when I'm editing, I want it to render as quickly as possible, so I usually just drop that at 25. I'm gonna make it 15 seconds long, and I'm gonna call this the main comp. Now, we're gonna make a solid to start working with, which you can do by pressing Command Y, or you can just go up here and select Layer, New, Solid. The color doesn't matter, just make sure it's the same as your comp size. Now basically what you need is generating shapes, and there isn't one more perfect for this effect than radio waves, which you can find in your effects and presets. Generate radio waves. And right away you can see what it's doing. It's generating some nice circles that are expanding like radio waves. So these are our basic waves, and we are going to turn these into a psychedelic drug fest, right? So how are we going to do that? Up here we have our effect controls, and well, I could give you a whole rundown of what each and every parameter does, but I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long, so I'm just going to do what we need to, and feel free to experiment with the others if you'd like. Make sure parameters are set at birth, wave type, polygon, image contours, or mask. The ones we are going to work with today are polygons and masks. Here are the polygon settings, which you can change from sides. You can make it like a hexagonal or a triangle. And also when you have a low amount of polygons, you can like change the curves and the curviness. And you can also turn it into a star, which looks better when you have more sides, but for now I'm just going to start with circles. These are the parameters for image contours and masks. But right now we're only just using polygons, so we're going to keep it at that. Now here is where it gets interesting. These are the ones that we're going to change to get started with our psychedelic waves. Frequency is how many circles are generated each second. Expansion is how far the circles that are generated will reach, and also how fast the effect is. Reflection is something really interesting that you might want to try every now and then. When you turn it on, what happens is all of the reflections, which are the sides of the solid, well, the edges of the circle will just bounce right off of those borders. And it's gonna look really, really trippy in the end. Especially with a high lifespan. Well, we're just gonna keep that at 10. And we're gonna turn off reflections. Opacity is going to keep that where it is. Color is pretty straightforward, is the color of the waves. Now, these are the first ones we are going to change. The start width is going to be cranked way up. We're going to crank the expansion up to 20. And once again, you might just want to play around with what speed of this effect will suit you. Personally, my workflow with this effect is by picking out a song first, like a really psychedelic song, something from like Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, Moses Gun Collective, or King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, you name it. And then I will make the effects like fit the song as much as possible. But I'm not working with a song right now, so we're just gonna put this at 20. Now, you wanna make sure the frequency is high enough so that there's so many circles being generated that you can't see the black borders like this. Perfect. Now, if you double click color, you can go right down into your timeline keyframe settings for color, right here. We're gonna keyframe the color over time, and I'm going to use my standard color palette. Now, I'll be honest, this color palette of mine, it's a comfort zone that I find really difficult to step outside of. So I usually just go with these colors and just loop the same colors over and over again. Some magenta. No wait, it's called magneta. It's called magneta. The more you know.
You can pick any color you like, by the way. Just make sure you pick some colors that complement each other in some way to avoid ugly transitions.
I'm just going to take these 4 keyframes and make them go over and over again until my timeline is full. There we go. It's going to keep on looping now. And you can do this too. Usually what I do to make it not seem repetitive is take an effect named U/saturation, and I go up to like right where the sequence starts over in terms of color, which is somewhere over here, and that's when I keyframe the color range, the channel range to rotate like this. Let's make this turn around half a circle, and you can right away see how trippy this looks by just having the colors. We haven't even been to the fun part yet. Well, here it comes, the fun part. We're gonna go down to the effects and presets and search for an effect called turbulent displace. And we're gonna drop that right onto our solid. And when we start playing it, you can once again right away see what it does. It displaces your radio waves, which looks really, really trippy. Here are a whole bunch of parameters that you can adjust. First of all, here's the displacement options, and I usually just go with either turbulent or bulge. Sometimes there are smoother counterparts. Just try them out for yourself and see what they look like. I'm gonna go with bulge. And also I'm going to use 2 of these. First one with a large size like 120 and a fairly low amount like 60, and also a low complexity of 1.2. This is where expressions come in. Useful trick for any After Effects user. I just double click evolution to get this right down here. Of course, you could just take the keyframe at the first frame, then go to the last frame and then give it some kind of value to have it evolve over time. But there's something a lot more useful, which is holding Alt and then click the keyframe stopwatch. And this will bring you to the expression panel. The expression that we're going to use right here is time times. The value that you write down here is, in this case, how many degrees the evolution will be turned in a second. So we might not want this to be that high, so I'm going to try 25 degrees. And I'm not going to take the time right now to see how that looks. I'm right away going to duplicate the turbulent displace with Control D or Command D on Mac, and, play around again. Turn down the size to a fairly low amount, like, I don't know, 50. And we're going to turn up the amount to 200 and turn up the complexity. Now, opening up the other turbulent displace effect in the timeline, we are also going to adjust this evolution setting to go a little bit faster. In this case, let's try 45. You can see that looks really, really trippy already. So this is the basic to your psychedelic waves. It's already pretty psychedelic looking, but I'm just going to give you a few effects that you can combine this with to get some nice visuals. One of them is CC Plastic. What CC Plastic does, well, in the end, it's going to make it look like total liquid. Make sure your bump layer is set to none, and it will basically add shadows and highlights to the shapes that are being generated. And, well, you can already tell it's not going on the proper places on every color. For example, when you scroll a little bit further, you can see that when different colors are appearing, the highlights and shadows are appearing on different places. But just that makes it look pretty cool, actually. You can adjust how this bulge looks with the softness or the height. And you can also bring in cuts if you would like that. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but okay, there you go. If you adjust cut min and cut max, you will get some strangely cut out parts in your psychedelic waves. And, well, it looks kind of nice, but I can't explain what determines where the cuts are going to be. It's already a pretty liquidish looking effect on its own, but with CC Plastic, let me try CC Glass, it'll look even more that way. Same here, make sure it's on none. Nah, I like CC Plastic better, but that's one of them. Another one is Mosaic. What this does is, well, it will turn it into tiles. I'm going to turn on sharp colors. Well, I've seen people theorize over what the ratio is, saying it's like 6:4 or something like that, but it's not. It's actually the exact same ratio as your composition. So that means this is 16:9. And when you hit 16:9 into horizontal and vertical, you will get perfect squares. However, these squares are way too big, and you're probably like, oh shit, so I gotta do the math to get smaller squares? Well, I got some good news for you. You don't. Because After Effects also has a calculator in its values. See what happens when we take horizontal blocks and say we multiply it by 3. That works. After Effects can do calculations for you. We've got 8-bit psychedelic waves. It's got a bit of a high frame rate for this, so let's use this effect called Posterize Time. And what Posterize Time does is, well, it makes an artificial frame rate. So one that differs from the one you put in your frame rate in your composition settings. And, well, let's see what happens if we set this to, like, I don't know, what would the frame rate for an 8-bit video game be? Let's try 12. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I like this. We've got a full-on 8-bit psychedelic visual now. So that's one. Actually, let's leave the posterize in here. Wait, I'm gonna show you one other effect named brush strokes. And what brush strokes does is, well, it's a stylizing effect, so it will turn it into, well, brush strokes. Let's set this to quarter to just make those strokes pop out. Turn up the brush size, stroke length just a little bit, density a little bit, randomness. Let's leave the angle right where it is. Let's set this to like 3, and let's put posterize time below brush strokes. Let's set the frame rate to 15. And, well, as you can see, it looks as if it's a hand-drawn animation, which is really awesome. Okay, there are other effects that can be combined with this, but I'm gonna leave those for the other ones. We're gonna make a new composition. Same settings should be good. And I got a beige background now. I'm not sure how that happened, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna make a new solid with Command Y, or whatever way you like to do it. Going up here, selecting layer, new solid. I know you can't see the top panel up here, and I'm sorry, but that might be a good opportunity to teach you how to use quick keys, which is Command Y to make a new solid. And same thing, we're gonna look up radio waves, and this is not what I wanted. I need a black background. Thanks. Oh, before I forget, you gotta press Control K or Command K on Mac to adjust your composition settings. That's a really useful trick. It's good to know. It's also probably up here somewhere. Yeah, your composition settings under composition. Okay, same thing here, but we're gonna change a few things up right here. Here is a setting that's named render quality, and to be honest with you, I have no idea what this changes, aside from the fact that it renders a lot faster while your render quality is at 1. Right here, I can see some difference in like anti-aliasing when I put it higher, but whilst we're editing this, we're just gonna leave this at 1. And when you start rendering, if you're feeling bold, you might as well just turn this up to like 5 and not really higher, because I don't really see a difference between 5 or anything above that. The main thing that we're changing here is that this is going to be masks. Wave type is going to be masks. As you may have realized, we don't have a mask. So before we continue here, let's close radio waves for now. We're going to make a mask. Make sure you select your solid right here, and we're just going to draw our mask with a pen tool. And you are absolutely free in this exercise. Just make sure you don't use too much points, because that's going to be tedious later on. But why not go ahead and make like a really curvy shape? Okay, I'm going with this for now. And before we go back to the effects, we're going to do something else, which is keyframing the mask path. You'll see why we're doing this later on. This will make sure that your effect won't seem repetitive. You can go ahead and keep on changing your mask path. I'm sure it looks nice. And there, as you can see, it's spinning around for a bit. Now this is heavily going to affect your radio waves later on, so you might not want to make it moving too crazy, but well, we're just gonna fill up our entire timeline here. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I just let my immature side out for a quick second. Yeah, I'm done here. Let's just start copying keyframes. Also, what you might want to do is at some point make these like crunch into each other until the shape gets really small. Maybe rotate it, move it around a little bit. And as we do so, we might as well just bring out some fragments. And to get the regular shape back, just copy some other keyframe. No worries. Okay, and just to make sure we don't get the same shape too much, let's just adjust this a little bit. Okay, so this might take a while, but it's going to be worth it, trust me. I'm also getting kind of lazy right now, so let's just make this composition 10 seconds. And then stretch this out. Another trick I'm teaching you here. You select all these keyframes, and then you hold Alt, and you can just squeeze these around to to extend the rate, the duration of it. It's changing pretty smoothly. Right, now let's go back to our radio waves up here. We have our wave type of mask. What this did is it opened up the mask tab automatically, and the only option we get here is to select a mask. And we only have one mask, we just made it, and we're selecting that one. Now if we play it, the radio waves are going to be shaped just like our mask. And not only that, it changes with the changes of the mask. So if we turn up the expansion and turn up the frequency, you can clearly notice the evolution in the mask. Okay, well, same story here. Expansion, let's try something else. 25. I'm not gonna make it that wide this time. Start with 80, end with 80. Oh, what's this? Okay, let's turn down the fade out time. Okay, colors. Oh, I forgot to keyframe it. All right. I see what I'm doing. I am stepping out of my comfort zone. Are you guys proud of me? Now, as you can see, we have a lot of black gaps in here, and there's not much we can do about that other than turning up the frequency so high until they're gone. Already very, very different from what we just made over here in the main comp. And now you can really see that it has different colors in it, like not that much of a gradients. I think I'm still going to adjust my mask for a little bit. You can still mess around with these masks when you've made these effects, which makes it really versatile. Don't ask me how to spell it. Now we're going to do the same as we did to our other radio waves. We're going to mess around with this super fun effect named Turbulent Displace. You gotta actually drop it onto the mask instead of the solid. So, or you just drop it onto your layer here, that works too. I think you can even just double click it with the layer selected, yeah. Sort of the same thing we're going to do here is up the size, down the amount, up the complexity, and evolution once again with the time expression, time times, whatever, 80. It's a bit faster. Oh, it's already looking really weird. Same thing, copying Turbulent Displace, up the amount, down the size, and up the complexity with a different evolution. Once again, you hold Alt whilst clicking the stopwatch to get to the expression panel. Yeah. First, we're going to use another effect named CC Radial Fast Blur. And it basically takes the colors and it makes them shine, and it's doing that to everything. Right now we don't want that, so we're going to set this to brightest. And now it's getting selective over what colors are shining and which ones aren't. Which looks already trippy with with the yellow deciding not to and the green kind of is, but also is not. And it just keeps going on like that. See, these effects right here is what we're going for. These looks. You gotta just be careful with the amount, because it doesn't seem to do that much from 0 to 70. And then between 95 and 100, it gets completely overkill. So let's leave this at like 92? No, 93, 94, fine. Here is where we're going to apply the posterize effect. And also here you want to play around with the level for a bit. And this is where we're getting those crazy looking effects. This right here, these choppy borders are what we're trying to get. They will stand out more when you play around with the amount. Maybe standard? No, not standard. Maybe darkest? You want to just try to play around with everything. That's like the whole encouragement of this video. You know, in the whole video, I will encourage you to play around on your own. Don't listen to me too much, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, well, here's another one. Let's try adding the hue option. You know, you just want to see if you want to put this below or above posterize. It's gonna get a little weird. This time I'm just going to do this from the start. Channel range keyframe the first frame, and then the last frame. Let's make it go a whole round, like 1 1/4. But of course, you know, the hue saturation, changing all the colors will affect how much the posterize is going to posterize the radial fast blur effects. Affects the color as well as the shape. Just see for yourself where you want this to be. And also, hue saturation also has these other parameters that you might want to play around with. It's saturation and lightness. You know, it's pretty clear what they do. See, I like this pastel-ish look that I pulled off here. But you know, you can always change the colors. There's always something you can personalize about this. That's the nice thing. You can also just, if you want, just keep trying to go overkill. Like, why not add a whole nother turbulent displays above this? There, almost makes it look like smoke. Oh man. Yeah, let's get rid of this third turbulent displays. Let's stay here. Let's stay in safe space for now. So you may have noticed in my other effects that I took as examples that there were also just chunks that were not part of the waves flowing around. I'm gonna tell you how to make those right now. We're gonna take this white layer and we're gonna duplicate it using Command D or Control D on Windows. And we're gonna use an effect named, wait, first let's close all of these effects to avoid confusion. Effect named CC Starburst. And it completely turns your layer into dust. Let's turn the lower layer off for now. And this is basically Star Wars, but with psychedelic stars. What we're gonna do is turn up the size. Not too much, because we're also gonna turn up the grid spacing. And that's already what we want, basically. Maybe play around with the speed for a bit and just scatter it a bit more so these get a bit more separated. You don't want them to overlap too much. Now basically, turning on the other layer, this is what it is. But it doesn't look this way, does it? Nope. Basically, what this is, I used the same turbulent displacements that I used on the layer below and put those above it. Above the starburst. But, well, below the starburst. Kind of weird, by putting something below something, you're prioritizing it. Also, we don't like how the spheres are faded at the edges. So we're also going to take our posterize and put that below here. It's gonna make them look like this. And well, that's basically what we have, but you might still think that they stand out too much. So let's hit up this button right here, which is toggle switches and modes. And here we get like the color blending modes. And once again, play around. Each and every one of these has a different looking blending effect. Just darken, makes the darker colors transparent, I think. Lighten makes the lighter colors transparent. And they're all pretty bright, so they're really going to be concealed like this. We don't want to conceal them, and we don't want them to stand out. What we want them to blend in. And the best way to do that might be overlay or something in this column. Now, let's look at some effects that we could combine with this. And this is a point in the video that I've been waiting forever for to show off. This is one of my all-time favorite effects, especially to combine with this. It's called CC Collider. Now first you want to just pick which one of these layers you want to put the collider on. I'm just going to show you what both looks like. So we're going to turn the top one off. And well, as the name may give away, it turns your it turns your sequence, whether it's a video clip or this, it turns it into a kaleidoscope. Looks really, really nice, but what I was going for was a bigger one. So without touching edges, which is below, which is above 100, maybe just 100 exactly. And that is how you get this kaleidoscope effect. I like Starlish the most, and just I can play around with this, the rotation, the size, or all of these modes. I can play around with this for hours and hours. You know, you can try to put like a time expression in the rotation and make it real slow, maybe like 10 degrees at a second. This is lovely. Something I like to do with this is like turning it into a two-color spectrum. Let's use tint and map white to, well, anything you'd like. For now, I'm just gonna make it black and white. And we're also going to use contrast, brightness and contrast, and turn contrast all the way up and use legacy supports. And now we basically only have two colors. And it's just going to take a while to determine what is black and what is white, but it doesn't matter. But it's nice how they how it maps out a lot, because it looks more simplistic now in a way. And then you can always pick, choose to put this somewhere else, maybe red, opposing yellow. Awesome, just awesome. Okay, I don't want to get too lost in this, so let's turn these off, as well as Collider. Now here is what the top layer Collider would look like. And this is one of my favorite ways to do so. Let's put size to 100 and turn this into Starlish. Collider will now be applied to those floating bubbles around your... In this one, it doesn't blend as nice. It won't always look as nice. It's, you gotta try a couple times to get different results. Just play around with it for yourself, I guess. Now, let's do something illegal. We're gonna use Collider on Collider, which doesn't do anything, actually, but... Unless you use a smaller Collider in a other Collider. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at right now. Hold on. Let's make this one 100. Copy it. And if we turn this one down, god damn. I'll be honest with you guys, this one right here is completely new to me. I might have to play around with multiple kaleidoscopes on the same layer more. I love this. What about 3 colliders? See what that looks like. Oh my goodness. I'm being blown away. I didn't plan for this to be on video, but whatever. Okay. So we're still here, and we have these ones above. By the way, there is one more useful effect that you might want to use if, well, let's say you put the complexity up too high, maybe the amount up too high, and actually, how is this too high? This looks really, really nice. Actually, well, You might be thinking that something like this would be too complex, but you feel like the complexity for some reason is on the right amount. Here is a useful effect that you might want to use when that happens. It's called median. And, well, you can right away see what this does. It simplifies everything. You know, you might just want to decide for yourself how much you want to medianize. Well, that should wrap up everything I know about this effect and everything I like about it. Well, what if we put like CC plastic on this one? That is actually still really nice in some way. By turning down the softness, it'll actually apply to the smaller parts. Let's put this on like full resolution. All right. Maybe pick out some other frame. Switch this panel. Zoom in. And that's gonna be my thumbnail right there.
So that's how you create psychedelic waves to do a lot of psychedelic things. We covered a whole bunch of effects and how they can be varied and personalized. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below and I will get to them as soon as I can. If you created any psychedelic visuals, please share it with me on Instagram or Twitter using the tag #Tyrannosaurus. Mind the spelling, I know that's something a lot of people struggle with. I'll be checking that tag regularly on Twitter and Instagram. I would love to see what you made and how you personalized it. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know if my channel will feature a lot more videos like this one, but why not subscribe and hope for the best, huh? Have a delightful goddamn day, and I will see you in another video. Cheers!